Let's recap the Super Bowl next on Fantasy Football Today in 5. Welcome to FFT in 5. I'm Chris Towers here with Dan Schneier, and the Chiefs shocked the world, according to Travis Kelce. Nobody believed they could win a Super Bowl. They only had the third best preseason odds to win the Super Bowl. Great game. I don't necessarily know how you felt about that late holding call. I thought it was a penalty, but it was also a little disappointing to see a great game end that way. It was certainly anticlimactic, but look, I thought it was going to be a close game. I thought the Chiefs were going to win. They earned it. They're a great team. And there are some really, really interesting questions around this Chiefs team heading into 2024. But I guess the one thing that I have to ask, we'll talk about Isaiah Pacheco. We'll talk about Kadarius Toney. One thing I have to ask is, haven't we learned the lesson that it doesn't really matter as long as Travis Kelce's there? He's going to be so much of an engine for that offense, and they're going to spread the ball around otherwise, that are we going to make the mistake of spending another offseason fighting about which Chiefs wide receiver is going to be worth using, when the answer might just be none of them?
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's not even just the none of them, right? It's like a best ball situation where in best ball, it's good to have these guys. In redraft, which we play mostly here, it's tougher. You're going to have to figure, even when we felt like we had that stretch with Juju Smith-Schuster this year where he was kind of starting to feel it, we're like, okay, man, maybe this is the breakout pick. And then he kind of fell off as well, too. So I think you nailed it there. It's a spread around. And that's also a testament to where Patrick Mahomes is at in his career. People don't always give him credit because they see him make all these crazy plays off script. But when he's on script, he does a really good job of mental processing post-snap and seeing what's open. And even when and a part of it is the offensive line, but he's going to spread that ball around. So I'm with you. I don't think it matters.
I mean, we did see over the last couple of games of the season, Isaiah Pacheco kind of evolve into a bigger role. That was especially true in the AFC Championship game where he had 5 catches, was a big part of the passing game. Super Bowl, he had 0 catches. Now, the Chiefs didn't have the ball very often. They had a defensive touchdown. They had a long punt return that kept their time of possession down. He played 47% of the snaps, 0 targets. Jerick McKinnon had 3. But Pacheco did have 14 carries, I think 74 yards and a touchdown. How are we viewing Isaiah Pacheco heading into the 2024 season or 2023 season? Excuse me.
I'm viewing him. I'm somewhat bullish on Pacheco. I think the interesting thing is Jerick McKinnon is a free agent.
Yeah.
And it's hard to imagine him getting too many offers that are lucrative outside of Kansas City. So I kind of feel like he'll just re-sign with the Chiefs on a team-friendly deal. But if he doesn't, that really gives Pacheco the chance, as he obviously showed in that AFC Championship game, of becoming a bigger part of the passing game. But I think overall, he can still be an asset as like the RB2 we always expected Clyde Edwards-Helaire to be for these past few years, because Pacheco's actually good at running the football and has burst.
Yeah, he is athletic. He hasn't really hit a lot of big plays, but you would feel like he has that kind of potential in this offense. And, I think the key thing that's going to make it, is he an RB3 or is he an RB2, is just, does he get at least some kind of passing game role? If he can be, 2.5 catches per game next season, I think that could make him, an RB2. If it's more like 1, then it's probably going to be tough for him to hit that upside. Another guy that I think is going to be very interesting to talk about. Actually, I don't think he's going to be interesting to talk about. I think he's going to be controversial to talk about this offseason. That's Kadarius Toney. We saw Chiefs they didn't use him much, but when they did, it tended to be near the goal line. We saw that yesterday. He had that 5-yard catch for a touchdown. One of 6 offensive plays he ran for the Chiefs yesterday. He also had the big punt return that was almost a touchdown. What's the outlook for Kadarius Toney coming out of the Super Bowl?
Well, it's interesting because on the offensive side of the ball, the Chiefs have made a big investment in Toney. They traded a couple draft picks, and he was a former first-round pick. And you feel like at some point they're going to evolve the offense to have him play a different role. But right now, he's in mostly a gadget role. When Toney's on the field, like you said, it's only for a handful of snaps. And for the most part, those have been designed plays for Toney. And so it's much easier for a receiver to run a design play. I think with a full offseason to learn that system, to get it down, Toney has a chance to evolve into an every down player. But I have to see it before I can believe it.
All right, let's talk about the Eagles. Obviously, this is a team that seems pretty set moving forward. You've got A.J. Brown, you've got Devontae Smith, you've got Dallas Goedert, all locked up long-term. You've got a young quarterback in Jalen Hurts. The big question here, I'm assuming that Miles Sanders is not going to be re-signed by the Philadelphia Eagles. Almost had a disastrous play in the passing game yesterday. I kind of thought it was a catch and fumble, but it was very, very close. But that was where he really fell off from a very promising rookie season. He just became a non-factor in the passing game. And we saw Kenneth Gainwell's role start to increase as the season went along, especially here in the playoffs. Some of that was playing in blowouts, but he did play more snaps than Miles Sanders yesterday. Do you think Kenneth Gainwell has a chance to become a viable starting fantasy option next year?
I think so. It depends what direction the Eagles go in to replace Miles Sanders, and I think it will be via the draft now. If they go with one of these day 2 players, and there are a lot of really good backs in this class, I think it's one of the deepest running back classes I've seen in a while. If they go with the day 2 back, then I downgrade Gainwell. But we have to remember, even as early as last offseason, Sirianni wore his Gainwell shirt to the first press conference of training camp. Like, he loves Kenneth Gainwell, and Gainwell has talent, and he has the skill set to impact fantasy in both a receiver and a rusher. So if they go day 3 route for running back, round 4, 5, 6, I think Gainwell could definitely be a potential back end RB2 type.
All right, I'm looking forward to talking about some of those prospects. We're going to have Emery Hunt on FFT and 5 over the next couple of weeks to break down some of those prospects. Dan, you're going to have some stuff on CBSSports.com breaking down the prospects in the next couple of months. Really looking forward to learning more about those guys. And that's it. That's the 2023 or 2022 NFL season in the books. Dan, we'll talk to you next time on FFT and 5.